Thank you for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, President Donald Trump warns Iran time is running out to make a deal on its nuclear program, saying Iran has been slow walking the process and the U.S. needs an answer soon. Israel recovering 2 bodies of Israeli Americans today. They were among those who were killed by Hamas on October 7th. Israel is planning to establish 22 new communities in the biblical lands of Judea and Samaria, also known as the West Bank. Many say it's a move to prevent the establishment of a Palestinian state in the area, but one Israeli analyst says there are other factors involved as well. And here at home, the big battle over President Trump's big, beautiful bill, as some Republican senators say it spends too much at a time when America is going too much deeper into debt. All those stories and more right now on CBN News Watch.
This is CBN News Watch.
It is Thursday, June 5th. We begin this half hour in the Middle East as President Trump is warning Iran its time is running out to make a deal of its nuclear program, even as Iran remains defiant. And today, Israel recovered the bodies of 2 Israeli Americans in Gaza. The couple died in October 7th, by the Hamas attacks. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell brings us the story now and more from Jerusalem.
Israel announced today the IDF and Shin Bet recovered the bodies of Israeli Americans Judi Weinstein and Gadi Haggai in a special operation. Both were murdered on October 7th at Kibbutz Nir Oz. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said all the citizens of Israel extend heartfelt condolences to the families. 56 hostages remain in captivity. 20 are thought to be still alive. The U.S. vetoed a UN Security Council resolution calling for a permanent and unconditional ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas, but did not demand Hamas disarm or release the remaining hostages. 14 members supported the resolution.
The United States has been clear. We would not support any measure that fails to condemn Hamas and does not call for Hamas to disarm and leave Gaza.
Israel's UN ambassador applauded the U.S. action.
Thank you for refusing to abandon the hostages and for refusing to legitimize the lies of this resolution.
As the Trump administration continues its attempt at a nuclear deal with Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei remains defiant about the demand to stop enriching uranium.
Who are you to interfere and say Iran should or shouldn't have uranium enrichment? What's that to you?
President Trump is lashing out on Truth Social, writing, "Time is running out on Iran's decision pertaining to nuclear weapons, which must be made quickly. It is my opinion that Iran has been slow-walking their decision on this very important matter, and we will need a definitive answer in a very short period of time." Trump originally gave the negotiators 2 months to come up with a deal. That deadline expires next week. The president is also taking action in the aftermath of an attack on Jewish demonstrators in Boulder, Colorado, by issuing a travel ban and restrictions on 19 countries. 15 survivors of the attack spoke out at a vigil.
I'll say I feel perfectly safe here in Boulder. I absolutely do. I'll say I was wrong, but I was absolutely felt safe. Hey, this was not okay. It really, really was not okay.
At the White House, CBN News' Kelly Wright asked Caroline Levitt what the government can do about anti-Semitism.
Can these entities and these agencies work together with the president to put out a proactive campaign to help people stop the hate?
I think the president himself has been leading on this, Kelly, and has been incredibly clear in his rhetoric that he is not going to tolerate such hate or behavior in the United States of America.
The Boulder attack followed the murders of 2 Israeli embassy employees in Washington, D.C. in May, Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram.
And Chris Mitchell joins us now with more. Chris, let's begin with Trump's warning to Iran. Is the feeling there in Israel that time really is running out for Iran and that a strike on its nuclear facilities could be coming?
Well, Ephraim, right now, Israel has really been waiting for weeks to see about which way these negotiations will go. And now it seems they've reached an impasse. The big obstacle, as we reported, is enriching uranium. Iran says they won't stop, and the U.S. says they must. So the question is, where do we go from here? We wonder what the White House will do, what President Trump will do as this deadline expires. But I believe that Israel is ready for a potential nuclear strike against the nuclear facilities. They know that Iran is ideologically and theologically committed to these nuclear weapons. As we mentioned before, Ephraim, they have this belief in the return of the Shia Messiah, the Mahdi, that will come when the world is in chaos. So Israel here doesn't believe diplomacy is going to work and hasn't going to work throughout all these negotiations, and they feel the military option really is the only way to stop Iran.
Would Israel likely carry out the strike alone with support from the U.S., or would other countries be involved in the attack, including the U.S. or other Middle Eastern nations?
Well, we don't exactly know right now. Israel would love to have the U.S. support or take part directly, but that's certainly a decision by the White House and President Trump. Israel is prepared to go it alone if necessary. Remember, this is something that they've been preparing for, not just years, but literally decades. And part of what happens over here, Ephraim, is called the Begin Doctrine. That's former Prime Minister Menachem Begin. His doctrine was they won't allow any neighbor here in the Middle East to get a weapon of mass destruction. They've already destroyed 2 nuclear facilities. That was 1981, Osirak in Iraq, and then 2007 in Syria. Some of the Middle East neighbors here may allow to use their airspace by Israel and or the U.S., and that may include Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and even Jordan. So there may be cooperation along with Israel, maybe the U.S. and some of its Middle East neighbors.
Chris, what can you tell us about the 2 Israeli Americans whose bodies Israel has recovered?
Well, their couple remains. They were held in Khan Yunis there in Gaza, and the IDF is saying they used precise intelligence to recover the bodies, and they got that intelligence in part from the interrogation of a captured terrorist. As we reported, 20 are believed to still be alive, but there's serious concerns for the well-being of 3 of those 20. The couple left behind 4 children and 7 grandchildren. And Ephraim, we've been down there to Ner Oz, the kibbutz where they were murdered. It were attacked on October 7th, just devastated many of the people. They were also the people that murdered and kept the bodies of Judi and Gadi were also the same group that captured and killed the mother, the Bibas mother, and also their 2 children.
This recovery naturally raises the question, what's the status of hostage negotiations today?
Well, they're currently stalled and have been for days right now. Hamas is demanding a permanent ceasefire. They're also asking for a complete military pullout of IDF forces from the Gaza Strip. They want unrestricted humanitarian aid. Steve Witkoff, on the other hand, replied to that. He said, quote, "It would be totally unacceptable." Israel, for its part, had agreed to a 60-day ceasefire, release of some of the hostages, and a release of Palestinian prisoners. But what they won't do, Ephraim, is they won't agree to Hamas's demand to end the war. They're continuing right now with Gideon's chariots, actually taking over more and more land inside Gaza. So they want to complete their mission, the war goals to defeat Hamas, to not let it govern Israel, Gaza Strip, and to release all of the hostages.
How significant was the U.S. veto of the UN resolution calling for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza?
Well, very significant. It shows that the United States and the White House is standing behind Israel against 14 nations, at least in the UN Security Council. Much stronger support diplomatically than the Biden administration was giving Israel. What it does, I think, right now, Ephraim, it gives Israel more diplomatic time to finish its military campaign. As I mentioned, Gideon's chariot is shrinking Hamas territory. Also, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation aid that we've been talking about in the last few days is working, and it's actually undermining and bypassing Hamas's goal to steal the humanitarian aid and use it for its own purposes. And as I said, the goal is always here in Israel to defeat Hamas, free all the hostages.
Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, thank you as always for your insight. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Coming up, the big move by Israel to establish 22 new communities in the biblical lands of Judea and Samaria. Some say it's a move to prevent the creation of a Palestinian state in that area. We're going to hear from an analyst who says there are other factors involved as well. We're going to have that interview for you when we come back. You're watching CBN NewsWatch.
Introducing a brand new way to start your morning. Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Discover how God is moving around the world and here at home. Plus, get exclusive stories and daily scripture encouragement just for you. Stay informed. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
Israel's diplomatic security cabinet has authorized the establishment of 22 new Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria, also known as the West Bank. Some view the landmark decision as an effort to prevent the creation of a Palestinian state in the area. However, appearing on this week's episode of The Global Lane, Jewish News Syndicate editor-in-chief Jonathan Tobin contends Israel's decision deals with the reality of the facts on the ground.
Let's understand something. When Israel says it's building new communities in Judea and Samaria, it's not taking land away from any Palestinian Arabs. It's not stealing anything. This is state-run land. It's open land. It's more or less what in the United States we'd call a housing development, accommodating in land where Jews have the right to live, which has been guaranteed for over a century, that they can build houses and live and create communities there. There's nothing crazy about this. There's nothing extreme about it. But it also is a reassertion that Jews have rights there. Jews are not going to be denied those rights. And this government is determined to defend Jewish sovereignty. And also, we'll hear a lot that, this is something that is an obstacle to peace. If the Palestinian Arabs wanted peace, they'd have had a state 25 years ago. This is no obstacle to peace. If the Palestinians ever decide they want peace, they can have peace, but they can't have every piece of land where Jews live. And that's the point here.
Jonathan, in the past, President Trump has suggested he supports Judea and Samaria annexation. But what doesn't he get about Israel's perpetual state of war?
Yes, well, the thing is, President Trump, he's a peacemaker. He's a deal maker. He doesn't like war. And, of course, he's right not to like war. We don't want wars. Israelis don't want wars either. And President Trump, hates this idea of forever wars, commitments that just are open-ended, go on forever with no solution in sight, which is kind of why he wants to end the conflict in Ukraine. But the point is, Israel is stuck with a forever war because in order to end a war, both sides have to wish to end it. The Palestinians have had innumerable opportunities to end the conflict with the Jews over the land of Israel over the course of the last 100 years. They've rejected all of them. Hamas is committed to not merely the destruction of Israel, but the genocide of its people. That war against them and against their Palestinian Arab supporters is going to go on for a long time. You need patience to fight that war. And President Trump has many good qualities, but patience is not one of them. That's a potential source of disagreement with Israel. Also, his negotiations with Iran. Now we have to hope, that unlike, say, President Obama or President Biden, his objective in trying to negotiate with Iran is not to appease Iran, not to replace Israel and Saudi Arabia with an alliance with Iran, as he says that the Iranians are used to dealing with stupid people in the United States, and he's right about that. And he knows a good deal from a bad deal. But the truth is, there is no such thing as a good deal with Iran. They can't be trusted to keep to anything, and they can't be allowed to keep a nuclear program whose only objective is a nuclear weapon.
Jonathan, on to the U.S. Most Americans were shocked to see an admitted Egyptian anti-Semite unleash terror in the streets of Boulder, Colorado, of all places. So what caused that to happen?
What caused that to happen is the way our entire culture in the United States, our legacy media, the liberal mainstream media, academia, everything, they have all bought these lies about Israel committing genocide. They've bought it, they've been influenced, they've been indoctrinated in leftist theories like critical race theory and intersectionality that brand Jews and Israelis as white oppressors of people of color. These calumnies have an impact. It has delegitimized Jewish life and Israel in the eyes of many radicals. They've been chanting for genocide on college campuses all across the nation for the last year and a half. Why should we be surprised that, as has often happened in the past with the left, some of them resort to violence? Some of them, instead of just chanting for genocide in Israel, they decide they want to kill Jews here. We shouldn't be surprised about this. What is most shocking is not just the violence, which is horrifying. It's the fact that, as a whole, America has not risen up in revulsion. There have been no mass protests. This is not like when George Floyd was killed. There have been no mass protests. There's been no horror. There's no outrage. If this had been, imagine if this had been, a white supremacist killing a person, trying to incinerate people of color in Boulder, Colorado. The news cycle would have been endless. The outrage would have been endless. Instead, most of America, most of certainly liberal America and the legacy media, they moved on pretty quickly. There have been no mass revulsion in reaction to this. They have mainstreamed the delegitimization of Jews. Violence is the natural outcome of that process.
Okay, Jonathan Tobin, Jewish News Syndicate Editor-in-Chief, thank you for being with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Also on this week's episode of The Global Lane, South Korea elects a pro-China president. We're going to look at the potential impact on North and South Korean Christians and the government ban on an Adventist church and its pastor in the Central Asian country of Kyrgyzstan. We're going to look at that on The Global Lane this evening on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 8 Eastern. You can also watch it on the CBN News app, or you can find it on YouTube. Still ahead, does President Trump's big, beautiful bill spend too much money? That's what Republican critics in Congress are saying. We're going to have a look at the battle over the budget when we come back. Big trouble for President Trump's big, beautiful bill. Multiple Republicans in the Senate argue the budget measure already passed by the House simply spends too much. At a time when the U.S. is already going deeper and deeper into debt, Elon Musk has also stepped up his attacks on the measure, calling it the debt slavery bill and urging lawmakers to kill the bill. CBN's Jenna Browder has the story now from Washington.
The goal for Republicans is simple: to get President Trump's big, beautiful bill over the finish line. The House did its part, and now it's up to the Senate. But GOP members are demanding changes.
I can't, in good conscience, give up every principle that I stand for and every principle that I was elected upon, and that's that you can't accumulate more debt.
Republicans can only afford to lose 3 votes in the Senate.
I think we'll get there. What it'll be exactly, I don't know, but I think we'll get there because I think failure is not an option.
A new analysis from the Congressional Budget Office says the proposed legislation, which extends Trump's 2017 tax cuts, would add $2.4 trillion to the deficit over the next decade. The analysis also projects about 11 million people would lose health insurance coverage as a result of changes to programs like Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Senate Republicans meeting with Trump at the White House Wednesday discussed even deeper spending cuts, up to $2 trillion, while strengthening Medicaid.
We are all in this together. This is a team effort, and everybody is going to be rowing in the same direction to get this across the finish line. Failure is not an option.
Trump's former ally and DOJ director Elon Musk is one of the bill's fiercest critics. Musk urging his more than 200 million followers to call members of Congress to have them kill the bill, and dubbing it the debt slavery bill.
I think he's flat wrong. I think he's way off on this, and I've told him as much, and I've said it publicly and privately.
House Speaker Mike Johnson says he had a good conversation with Musk earlier in the week and was surprised by his criticism. So far, no comment from President Trump.
He's not delighted that Elon did a 180 on that, but look, I don't know what happened in 24 hours. Everybody can draw their own conclusions about that.
Some believe Musk could be motivated by his own self-interest. Among other things, the bill cuts the electric vehicle tax credit. President Trump out with a surprise of his own this week, announcing he agrees with longtime nemesis Senator Elizabeth Warren on getting rid of the debt limit. Trump writing on Truth Social, "After all these years, I agree with Senator Elizabeth Warren on something. The debt limit should be entirely scrapped to prevent an economic catastrophe." And this bill is critical to President Trump's agenda. Any changes in the Senate would restart negotiations in the House. The deadline to get it to the president's desk is July 4th. Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Coming back with an encouraging word for your day ahead. Stay with us. You're watching CBN NewsWatch.
Download the CBN News app, 24/7 news from a Christian perspective at home or on the road. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Set daily prayer goals and pray for news stories. Read the most important news and watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Go to cbnnewsapp.com to get the app today.
Hi, I'm John Stolnis, host of the CBN News podcast, DC Debrief. I'd love for you to join me each Friday morning for the inside scoop on Washington politics. We will talk to experts, lawmakers, newsmakers, and analysts to help us take a deep dive into the important stories you might not hear anywhere else. Don't miss this unique CBN News perspective coming to you straight from the nation's capital, because truth matters.
Time now for your Thursday Thankful. I invite you to join me in this prayer of gratitude. God, thank you for the gift of faith. Help me to tap into it and to understand its power. It's a gift from you to me. I also know it's impossible for me to please you without it. With that prayer, I encourage you to walk today in thankfulness. Gratitude is the attitude for your Thursday. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time as well as online. That is cbnnews.com. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.